The door chain rattled. A silver pen slid under it, attached to a deed with a name I recognized as my own. "Pick one," a voice said from the hallway, pointing to a takeout menu and a stack of notarized transfers. "Dinner, or your life back. I thought I was broke, living in a cheap motel." Turns out, I'd been financing my parents' ocean view fantasy until the man they forgot to fear finally knocked on my door. My name is Sloan Mercer. I am 29 years old, and I live in room 214 of the Sagebrush Inn, a place that smells of industrial carpet cleaner, stale cigarette smoke, and the faint, sulfurous tang of the highway. It's a month-to-month existence off the I-25 in Mesa Verde, New Mexico. The fictional city part is right, but the desperation is painfully real. A week ago, I was a junior brand designer. The title junior had clung to me for 5 years, a sticky reminder of my failure to launch. Then, the video call, the HR box ticker with the sympathetic, blurry background. "Restructuring. Difficult decisions. We wish you the best." The call lasted 4 minutes. My access to the server was cut before the video feed even ended. Now, my world has shrunk to these 4 walls, where the wallpaper peels in dry, curling strips near the air conditioning unit, and the neon vacancy sign outside stains the room in pulsing shades of red and arsenic green. I sit on the edge of the bed, the polyester comforter rough against my legs. On the wobbly particle board desk, my laptop fan screams. It's not a hum. It's a high, thin shriek, the sound of bearings giving up, a jet engine in its death throes. On the screen is a logo concept for a local dive bar, the Howling Coyote. They're paying me in crumpled bills and free well drinks I can't afford to accept. I'm counting the payment right now. The bills are damp, sticking together, carrying the scent of spilled beer and fryer oil. 1, 5, another 5, a 1, a 10, $37. $37 for 12 hours of vector work. My hand still smells like the bar's onions. I rub my temples, trying to ignore the sound of the interstate, the constant, grinding groan of air brakes as the semis gear down for the exit. My phone lights up the dim room. A sudden, sharp blue. It's on the nightstand, next to a half-empty water bottle. A text notification. It's from Lydia, my mother. I don't need to open it to see the preview. It's a photo. She's leaning back against a brilliant turquoise-tiled wall, steam rising around her. Her face, smooth and serene, is angled toward the light. She's at a desert spa in Sedona. The caption, "Just recharging, absolute heaven. You should try it, XO." My stomach tightens into a cold, hard knot. I sent her a text last week. They did layoffs. I was cut. I'm scared. Her reply. 2 days later. "Oh, honey, that's terrible." "Well, everything happens for a reason. Chin up." I swipe the notification away, and another one sits beneath it. From Graham, my dad. It's a reply to the same "I lost my job" message I'd sent him. My text, delivered 3 days ago. His response, sent this afternoon, a single thumbs-up emoji. A thumbs up. I want to throw the phone against the wall, but I can't. It's the only thing connecting me to a world that might, eventually, hire me. Instead, I open my banking app. The screen loads. The numbers glow with a sickening finality. Checking $418.12. Savings, $0. I stare at the 418.12s. It's everything. It's the $37 from the bar. The $450 I got for pawning my DSLR, minus groceries, gas, and the last copay for the anxiety medication I'm now rationing. I scroll down. The dread is a physical pressure, a hand closing around my throat. Pending transactions. NAVNTSTU loan, $420. Processing 10/22. Tomorrow. My student loan autopay will hit tomorrow. It will draw $420 from an account holding $418.12. The math is simple. The payment will fail, or worse, it will overdraft. The bank will charge me $35. Then the motel's weekly charge of $350 will try to hit, and it will bounce. 2. Another $35. By noon tomorrow, I won't just be broke. I'll be negative. I close my eyes. I can't breathe. I push off the bed and pace the small room. 2 steps to the window. 2 steps back. The thin carpet is gritty under my bare feet. I need a lifeline. I need anything. My gaze lands on the phone again. I open my voicemail. I scroll past the missed calls from numbers I don't recognize, probably debt collectors. I scroll down, 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 to a message from 6 months ago. I press play. The voice is tinny, old, and dry as the New Mexico air. Sloan, Arthur Hale. I'm in Sun Mesa for the quarter. I hear you're in Mesa Verde. Close enough. Call Jonah Price at my office. Set up a lunch. Next time you're in town. Click. Arthur Hale, my maternal grandfather, the man my parents refer to as difficult or an island, always with a slight bitter edge to their voice. I've met him exactly twice. Once when I was 6, at a funeral. Once when I was 19, at a sterile corporate event he was hosting. He'd shaken my hand, his eyes sharp and assessing, and asked if my education was adequate. I never called him back about the lunch. Sun Mesa is only an hour away, but it's a different universe. It's high desert luxury, sprawling terracotta roofs, and private golf courses. What would I have said? Grandpa, the near stranger. My parents hate you. But I just got laid off, and my car is making a rattling noise, and I'm living in a motel. Can you spare a few thousand? The shame was a physical barrier, thicker than concrete. I deleted the voicemail, but it always comes back from the cloud. A digital ghost. The wall vibrates. Boop, boop, boop. A siren sound, followed by a roar of canned applause. My neighbor in 212 is watching a game show. The walls are paper. A woman shrieks. A brand new car. The laugh track swells. I flinch, the sound grating on my raw nerves. I go back to the desk. I have to do something, or the panic will swallow me whole. I push the laptop aside, ignoring the whine of the fan. I pull out my sketchbook, a cheap, spiral-bound one from a grocery store aisle, and a mechanical pencil. I start to sketch. By the dim yellow light of the bedside lamp, I design, not for the bar, for myself. I draw a logo for a fictional bakery called The Daily Rise. I focus on the serif, the clean line of the wheat stalk, the negative space. I work on the curve of the R for 10 minutes. This I can control. The alignment, the balance. It isn't sanity, but it's ballast. It's the only thing keeping me tethered to the floor. I check the date on my phone. October 21st, 11:50 p.m. In 10 minutes, it will be my birthday. My 30th. No, my 29th. I'm only turning 29. Stop. Sloan Mercer. 29. The outline point flashes. Wait, no. The outline my character is 29. I am 29. My birthday is tomorrow. My 30th? No. The prompt says 29. I shake my head. Confused. The stress is making my thoughts slip. Introduce Sloan Mercer, 29. A birthday is tomorrow. That means I'm turning 29 tomorrow. Yes, that's it. My plan for my 29th birthday, a single, waxy cupcake from the AM/PM gas station next door, and a call to Mara Quinn. Mara, my best friend since freshman year. Now a surgical resident in Tucson. Buried under her own mountain of debt and 80-hour work weeks. I can't tell her how bad it is. She'll try to send me money she doesn't have. It will be a "hey birthday, everything's fine" call. I shove the sketchbook under the bed. My hand hits something solid. I pull it out. A shoebox. The lid is soft, bowing at the edges. I open it. This is my archive of adult failure. My grown-up receipts. There's a stack of resumes, printed on 28 dial-bar ivory bond paper that I can't afford anymore. Dozens of them, sent into the digital void. Beside them, the printed rejection emails. We've decided to pursue other candidates. Thank you for your interest, but the pool was very competitive. Your skills do not align with our current needs. And at the bottom, a single, flimsy green slip, the pawn ticket for my Canon 5D Mark IV, my camera, The tool of my trade. The one thing I owned that was truly professional, pawned for $450. The money that paid for the first 2 weeks here. The money that is now gone. I clutch the pawn ticket. The room feels hot, airless, a memory, sharp and unwelcome. Surfaces. I'm 18, standing in the kitchen of our old house, the one before the big remodel, before they moved to Sandstone Vista. Mom. Dad. I've been accepted to the design program. We need to talk about college money. My mother, Lydia, turning from the sink, a dish towel in her hand. She laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, just a high, brittle, dismissive sound. A fond, oh, Sloane. My father, Graham, rustling his newspaper at the table, not even looking up. Sloane, this is the real world now. You pull yourself up. We did. It builds character. The real world now. Their words echo in the stale motel room. This room. This is the real world they were talking about. This is the character I've built. Brap, brap, brap. I jump, my heart slamming against my ribs. A knock. It's not a casual knock. It's hard. Official. I freeze. My first thought, the manager. He knows the autopay is coming. He knows I'm at my limit. He's here to kick me out. Tonight, before the card declines. I creep toward the door, my feet silent on the gritty carpet. I put my eye to the peephole. The fisheye lens shows me nothing but the blurred, beige stucco of the opposite wall. No one is there. I back away. Then, the beige plastic phone on the nightstand shrieks. Brrring! The sound is so loud in the quiet room I almost scream. I snatch it up. Hello? My voice is a whisper. Ms. Mercer, room 214. A man's voice. The front desk. Yes. Apologies for the late hour. Ma'am, there's a gentleman down here in the lobby. My blood runs cold. A collection agent. They found me. He's in a suit, the night manager continues, his voice hesitant. He just prepaid your room for the week. I blink. What prepaid who? Who is it? He didn't give a name, ma'am. He asked for room 214. He said he's on his way up. The line clicks dead. A suit? Prepaid? This isn't help. It's a mistake. Or it's a threat I don't understand. I lunge for the door and slam the deadbolt home. The chunk of the metal bolt sliding into the frame is the loudest sound I've ever heard. I back away, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my sternum. I retreat toward the far wall, by the window, as far from the door as I can get. Silence. Just the hum of the ice machine down the corridor, the distant whine of the highway. Then I hear it. Footsteps on the outdoor concrete walkway. Not boots, not sneakers. Click, clack, click, clack. The measured, expensive sound of hard-soled leather shoes, polished brogues. The footsteps stop. Right outside my door, I hold my breath. The game show laughter from 212 has stopped. The world has gone silent. Then, the chain, the short, brass security chain I hadn't latched. It trembles, a soft, metallic jingle, 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 as if something, or someone, is touching it from the outside. My hand is on the deadbolt. My knuckles are white. Outside, the world is a held breath. The only sound is the frantic, wet thumping of my own pulse in my ears. The chain jingles again. A tiny, insistent question. Ms. Mercer. The voice from the hallway is the same one from the voicemail. Old, dry, etched with an authority that feels utterly out of place here, like a diamond on a paper plate. It's Arthur Hale. I don't know what to do. My mind cycles through 100 panicked scenarios. He's here to deliver bad news. He's senile and confused. He's here to... What, why now? Why here? The deadbolt feels cold and heavy under my fingers. Taking a shallow, shaky breath, I turn it. The thunk of the bolt retracting echoes in the small room. I pull the door inward just enough to see through the crack, the flimsy brass chain still holding it in place. He stands there, under the buzzing fluorescent tube of the walkway light, perfectly framed, Arthur Hale, at 81 years old, is immaculate. He's wearing a charcoal gray suit that was tailored by someone who charges more than my car is worth. His silver hair is cut with military precision. His shoes, the polished brogues I heard, gleam even in the miserable light. He doesn't look at me. He looks past me, his gaze sweeping over the stained carpet and the peeling wallpaper of my room with a kind of detached, clinical assessment. He holds a thin leather briefcase in one hand and a white paper bag in the other. He finally meets my eyes. They are a pale, piercing blue, sharp and shockingly clear for a man his age. There is no warmth in them, but no malice either, just appraisal. "Room service," he says. His voice is crisp as a new $100 bill. "Or ownership papers." The question is so bizarre, so utterly nonsensical, that it short-circuits my fear. I just stare at him. I don't unlatch the chain. He doesn't wait for an answer. With a sigh that sounds more like an expression of impatience than fatigue, he unhooks the chain from the outside with a practiced flick of his fingers. The door swings open. He steps inside, bringing with him the clean, cold scent of the desert night and something else, the faint, expensive smell of wool and leather. He moves to the wobbly particle board table, the one currently occupied by my shrieking laptop and a half-eaten bag of pretzels. He sets his things down with deliberate care. From the paper bag, he removes 2 takeout menus, their glossy photos promising greasy Chinese food from a place called the Golden Dragon. He places them on one side of the table. Then, he opens his briefcase and takes out a thick, dark leather folder. It's embossed with gold lettering I can just make out in the lamplight Hale Family Trust. He sets this stack on the other side. The 2 piles sit there, a universe apart. The cheap, flimsy menus and the heavy, opulent folder. I find my voice. It comes out as a croak. Is this a prank?" He turns, his expression unreadable. "The expensive kind. If it is, and I assure you, I am not known for my sense of humor." He gestures to the single, threadbare chair by the desk. "Sit, Sloane. This won't take long." I don't move. I stay by the door, my hand still on the knob, my body tense to either fight him or flee. He seems to notice my hesitation and gives another one of those impatient sighs. "I am not here to harm you. I am here because of a discrepancy, a rather significant one." I slowly, cautiously, move to the chair and sit on the very edge. My laptop fan continues its high-pitched scream, a soundtrack to the absurdity of the moment. Arthur pulls the other chair, the one from the small vanity table, over and sits opposite me. He doesn't lean back. He sits perfectly straight, his posture impeccable. "Tell me," he begins, his voice level, "what you know about the Hale Education Subtrust." I blink. The words mean nothing. They are a random collection of syllables. "The what?" "The Hale Education Subtrust," he repeats, slower this time, as if speaking to a child or someone hard of hearing. "Established at the time of your birth, for your benefit." I search my memory, frantically sifting through 18 years of conversations with my parents, through every birthday card, every holiday dinner. Nothing. The name is a blank. The concept is a void. "I don't know what you're talking about," I say, my voice flat with genuine confusion. "I know nothing." His pale blue eyes sharpen. It's a subtle shift, but it's like a lens coming into focus. He watches me for a long moment, his gaze so intense, I feel like he's cataloging the lies I don't even know I'm telling. He seems to find what he's looking for. "I see," he says, the 2 words heavy with meaning. He pulls a sleek, minimalist phone from his suit jacket. He taps the screen once and puts it on speakerphone, placing it on the table between us. It rings twice. A voice answers, calm and professional. "Jonah Price." "Jonah, it's Arthur. I'm with my granddaughter. Arthur, is everything all right?" "That is the question of the hour," Arthur says dryly. "Jonah," a preliminary query. My granddaughter, Sloane Mercer, informs me she has no knowledge of her own subtrust, none whatsoever. There is a pause on the other end of the line. I can hear the faint sound of keyboard clicks. That's not possible. Arthur, the quarterly statements are sent to the address on file. And what is that address? One moment. More clicking. Initially, they were mailed to Graham and Lydia Mercer's residence. However, 3 years ago, we received a signed request from Lydia to switch to paperless delivery. The e-statements have been sent to an email address. L. Mercer Design cmail.com. Lydia's email address, the one for her lifestyle brand. My stomach lurches. So, for at least 3 years, no physical mail. Arthur clarifies, his eyes locked on mine. Correct. Thank you. Jonah, stand by. Arthur ends the call, but his gaze doesn't waver. Paperless, he murmurs, more to himself than to me. Convenient. He looks around the room again, taking in the sagging mattress, the single suitcase in the corner, the shoebox of failure sticking out from under the bed. Why aren't you in your loft? He asks. The question's so direct it feels like a physical blow. I can't help it. I laugh. It's a harsh, broken sound that has no humor in it. My loft. I've never had a loft. I live here, in this palace. I gesture around the room. This is it. This is the whole empire. Arthur's expression remains unchanged, but he reaches into the leather folder. He pulls out a single, glossy photograph and slides it across the table toward me. My hand trembles as I pick it up. It's a picture of a stunning apartment. Sunlight pours through massive, floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating polished hardwood floors and exposed brick walls. It's beautifully furnished in a clean, mid-century modern style. There's a sleek gray sofa, a cowhide rug, a thriving fiddle-leaf fig in the corner. It looks like a page from an architectural magazine. It is the most beautiful room I have ever seen. I turn the photo over. On the back, in neat printed text, it says Harborlight Lofts, Unit 7B, Northlight District. I look at him, my mind reeling. What is this? He slides another document from the folder. It's not a copy. It's a thick, watermarked original, a deed. I read the top line, Deed of Gift, for the benefit of Sloane Elara Mercer, upon her 25th birthday. My 25th birthday was 4 years ago, I whisper, the words catching in my throat. Indeed, Arthur says. The keys were given to your parents, for a ceremonial surprise, they said, a surprise you evidently never received. I stare at the photo, at the sun-drenched loft that was supposed to be mine, the life I was supposed to be living. I think of the cramped, dingy apartments I'd shared with roommates, the endless arguments over utility bills, the constant, gnawing insecurity. I think of my parents, laughing at me, real world now. I feel a wave of nausea. I put the photo down on the table, my fingers leaving faint, sweaty prints on the glossy surface. Arthur isn't finished. He pulls another piece of paper from the folder. This one is a memorandum, typed on heavy, cream-colored letterhead from his own trust. He points to a line halfway down the page. Durango Ridge Cabin. Acquisition complete. To be transferred to Sloane E. Mercer as a birthday surprise upon her 27th birthday. My 27th birthday was 2 years ago. Another surprise that seems to have gotten lost in the mail, he says, his voice devoid of emotion. My hands are shaking so violently now I have to clasp them together in my lap. I can't process it. A loft, a cabin, a trust fund, a whole life, running on a parallel track to my own. A life that was supposed to belong to me. It's too much. The room feels like it's tilting, the screaming of the laptop fan filling my head. This can't be real, I say, my voice barely audible. Arthur leans forward slightly. His expression, for the first time, softens. The icy blue of his eyes thaws by a single degree. Sloane, he says, his voice low and serious. I am not a man who deals in hypotheticals. These are facts. These are assets. They belong to you. And somewhere, between this folder and your bank account, is a very large, very dark hole. We can leave it alone. We can close the folder. I can leave, and you can order Chinese food. Or, he pauses, letting the weight of the word hang in the air. If you say the word, we open it all. We find the bottom of that hole, right now. He is offering me a choice. Stay in the dark, in the Sagebrush Inn, with my $408 and my looming overdraft, or step into a light so bright it might burn me to ash. I look at the picture of the loft, the life I never knew I lost. I think of my mother's spa selfie, my father's thumbs up emoji. I think of them telling me to pull myself up, to build character, while they held the keys to my entire world in their hands. The shame that has kept me silent for so long, the shame of being the broke granddaughter, is burning away, replaced by a cold, hard fury I have never felt before. I meet my grandfather's gaze. My hands have stopped shaking. I nod once, sharp, decisive. The corner of Arthur's mouth ticks upward, the barest hint of a smile. He picks up his phone and dials. "Jonah," he says, his voice like flint. "Initiate a full-scope forensic review of the F. Sloan Subtrust. Effective immediately. I want numbers. I want a ledger. I want every withdrawal, every transfer, every signature, from inception to the present day, and I want it in an hour. The next 57 minutes are the longest of my life. The air in the room becomes thick, heavy, and hard to breathe. Arthur doesn't speak. He sits perfectly still in the flimsy motel chair, a statue carved from granite and resolve. He doesn't look at his phone. He doesn't look at me. He simply stares at the peeling wallpaper across the room, his hands resting on his knees, waiting. The silence is a living thing, broken only by the incessant, high-pitched scream of my laptop fan and the rhythmic, wheezing hum of the ancient air conditioning unit kicking on and off. I am vibrating. A low-frequency tremor runs through my entire body, a physical manifestation of the shock that has overloaded my circuits. My mind keeps replaying the images, the sun-drenched loft, the typed memorandum about a cabin. It feels like a dream, a hallucination brought on by stress and malnutrition. I keep expecting to blink and find the room empty, the leather folder gone, my reality of stale air and impending overdraft charges snapping back into place. But Arthur remains. The folder remains. I try to make sense of it, to find a rational explanation. It's a mistake. He has the wrong granddaughter. My parents were protecting it for me. The thought dies before it can fully form. Protecting it, by leaving me to drown, by sending spa selfies and thumbs-up emojis while my life imploded. The cold knot of anger in my stomach tells me that isn't it. The coldness is clarity. Every memory of my parents is suddenly cast in a new, sinister light. Every time they said, "We can't help you with rent, honey, we're stretched thin." Every time my mother advised me to budget better while wearing a new silk blouse. Every family dinner where they talked about their latest vacation, their new car, their club memberships, all framed as the just rewards for their hard work. We pulled ourselves up. It builds character. Whose character were they building, mine? Or theirs? The phone on the table, still on speaker, chimes once. It's a notification sound. Arthur doesn't flinch. A moment later, it rings. The sound slices through the tense silence, making me jump in my seat. Arthur leans forward and taps the screen. "Jonah." "Arthur." Jonah Price's voice fills the room again, as calm and steady as a surgeon's. "I have the top-line ledger. I must state for the record that this is a preliminary overview. A full forensic audit will take weeks. But what I have here is stark." "Proceed," Arthur says, opening the file. Jonah's voice is crisp. The official ledger title is Hale Family Subtrust. File reference F. Sloan. He spells my name. F-Sloane. Is that correct? I can only nod, my throat too tight to speak. She confirms. Arthur says, "Very well. The subtrust was established on October 22nd, 1996, the day of her birth. Initial funding, post-tax, was $1.2 million. The number hangs in the air. An impossible sum. $1, $200, $1,000. The air conditioner hums. Outside, A truck's air brakes hiss. My entire life, that number has existed, tethered to my name, and I never knew. The portfolio was structured for conservative, long-term growth, Jonah continues. Based on market performance and our initial projections, the estimated value of the trust by Ms. Mercer's 27th birthday should have been approximately $3.6 million. $3.6 million. I feel lightheaded. I grip the edges of my cheap chair to steady myself. That money could have paid for my education 10 times over. It could have bought a house, started a business, provided a safety net so deep I would never have known the terror of a dwindling bank account. Jonah, Arthur's voice is sharp, cutting through my shock. The current balance. A pause. I hear the soft click of a mouse. The silence stretches for a full 5 seconds. The current displayed balance in the F. Sloan subtrust, Jonah says, and his professional tone is now laced with something that sounds like disbelief, is $214,900.17. The discrepancy is so vast, so catastrophic, that my mind can't grasp it. It's like being told the Grand Canyon is a pothole, over $3 million, gone, vanished into thin air. Silence, Arthur says into the phone, but he's looking at me. She is processing. He's right. I can't speak. I can't even think. All I can do is stare at the water stains on the motel room ceiling, trying to breathe. Jonah, Arthur says after a moment, line items, large withdrawals, start with the earliest. Of course. The clicking of his keyboard resumes, faster this time. The significant activity begins approximately 8 years ago. The first major withdrawal is a wire transfer for $510,000. Purpose. The memo line reads, Primary Residence Mortgage Payoff. The recipient account is held jointly by Graham and Lydia Mercer. It appears they used your granddaughter's trust to pay off their house in the Sandstone Vista community. The blood drains from my face. Their house, the one with the big kitchen and the landscaped backyard. The one they always complained about being mortgage poor in. They paid it off with my money. Next, Arthur says, his voice like ice. A series of cashier's checks issued to luxury automotive dealerships. One for an Aurora Motors electric SUV, $145,000. Another for a Boreal touring sedan, $120,000, totaling $265,000. The cars, Lydia's sleek, silent silver SUV, Graham's deep blue sedan that he waxes every Sunday. I remember him telling me he got a hell of a deal on it. Continue. The largest single category is listed under business investment, multiple transfers over a 3-year period, totaling $480,000, were made to a holding company. Which company? Lydia Mercer Lifestyle Homes, LLC. Jonah reads, the final transaction in this category is noted as a full write-off due to market downturn. It appears the investment was a total loss. My mother's hobby. Her lifestyle brand that never seemed to sell anything. The website with stock photos and vague promises of curated living. It wasn't a hobby. It was a $480,000 hole she dug with my money. There's more, Jonah says, his voice grim. A recurring series of withdrawals coded to travel and wellness. This category is broad. It includes first-class airfare, extended stays at high-end resorts in Hawaii and the Caribbean, private club membership dues at the Mesa Verde Country Club, and significant charges from multiple desert spas in Arizona, totaling approximately $390,000. The spa photo. Just recharging, she sent me that photo. Paid for with my money. While I was counting crumpled dollar bills in a motel room, the cruelty of it is so profound it takes my breath away. I feel a single, hot tear slide down my cheek, and I wipe it away with a furious, trembling hand. Jonah, Arthur says, his voice dangerously quiet. The loft? Ah, yes, the Harbor Light Loft. The deed is, and has always been, in Sloane's name. It was a direct gift. However, the trust was debited for property taxes, HOA fees, and insurance for the past 4 years. And there's another layer here. I've cross-referenced with our real estate division. It appears a management company has been leasing the property. And the rental income. The rental income, Jonah says, and I can hear the anger in his voice now, was being diverted, not to the trust, and not to Sloan. It was being paid directly into a different entity, GL Mercer Holdings, Graham and Lydia, based on the market rate for a unit of that size in the Northlight District. I estimate they've collected rent on your granddaughter's property for at least the last 2 years. At $4,200 a month, that's over $100,000 in illicit income. They rented it out. They rented my home out, the home I never knew I had, and they pocketed the money. The betrayal is so complete, so audacious. It's almost elegant in its depravity. How— Arthur's voice is a low growl. How did they authorize these transfers? That, Jonah says, is the crux of it. I found the document. It was scanned into our system 3 years ago, just before they requested the switch to paperless statements. It's a limited power of attorney. It grants Graham and Lydia Mercer discretionary control over the F. Sloan Subtrust for investment and management purposes. Jonah pauses. It's signed, electronically, by Sloan Mercer. I never signed anything, I choke out, the words tasting like ash. I've never even heard of a power of attorney. We are aware of that. Ms. Mercer, Jonah says, his voice softening for a moment. Our security protocols log the IP address of all e-signatures. The signature on this document originated from an IP address registered to the Daybreak Canyon Spa in Sedona, Arizona. The timestamp corresponds to a date your mother posted a photo of herself at that exact location. A forged signature. From a spa. It wasn't just theft. It was fraud. It was a crime. They didn't just take my money. They stole my name. Jonah, Arthur says, his voice regaining its command. Recommendations. Immediate action is required, Jonah replies. All business once more. I recommend we file for an emergency. Ex parte freeze on all known accounts belonging to Graham and Lydia Mercer. We need to place liens on any assets directly traceable to the trust funds, the house, the vehicles. We need to prevent them from moving or liquidating anything further. We do it now, tonight, and we do it without giving them notice. An emergency freeze, liens, the words are legal jargon, but their meaning is clear war. He is recommending a legal blitzkrieg. The room is silent again, except for the hum of the air conditioner. Arthur Hale turns his pale, piercing eyes to me. He is not looking at a victim anymore. He is looking at a principal, a client. The choice is mine. The power, for the first time in my life, is mine. He asks a single question. Press. I look at the ghost of my stolen life, the loft, the cabin, the financial security. I look at the reality of my present, the motel room, the debt, the $37 in crumpled bills on the table. I think of the casual cruelty, the years of lies, the absolute, bottomless contempt they must have had for me. To do this, to watch me struggle while they lived a life of luxury on my future. My jaw sets. The tremor in my hands is gone, replaced by a cold, steady calm. The single tear has dried on my cheek. I meet my grandfather's gaze. Press, I say. My voice doesn't waver. The word press hangs in the stale motel air, an electrical charge waiting to ground. Arthur doesn't smile. He doesn't offer a word of comfort or congratulations. He simply gives a single, curt nod, as if I have just confirmed a business decision. He taps the speakerphone, his movements economical and precise. Jonah, it is a press, full mobilization. I want Priya Das on this line, immediately. Understood. Arthur, Jonah's voice is replaced by a few bars of sterile, classical hold music. Arthur looks at me, his blue eyes holding no trace of pity, only a sharp, assessing focus. Priya Das is my chief of staff, he says, his voice cutting through the tinny sound of the violins. You could call her a logistics genius. I call her a force of nature. When Jonah builds the legal weapon, Priya is the one who aims it and pulls the trigger. You are about to see how the real world operates. Sloan, Not the one your parents fabricated for you. The music cuts off abruptly. A new voice joins the call. So clear and fast, it's as if she's in the room with us. It's a woman's voice, clipped, energetic, and radiating an almost terrifying competence. Priya Das reporting, Jonah has briefed me on the subtrust identifier. The team is spun. Forensic accountants are live and accessing the trust database now. What is the primary objective? Asset freeze and flight risk. Arthur states, understood. The speed at which she processes this is startling. Jonah, I need the emergency judicial subpoena for Messiah Bank's wire room. Targeting all accounts associated with Graham and Lydia Mercer. I want transaction histories for the last 72 hours. Now. Drafting, Jonah replies, his voice steady in the background. Arthur, I am filing the ex parte motion for the temporary restraining order right now. Judge Alvarez is on night duty. Her clerk is expecting the file. We should have a signed order freezing all known assets within the hour. Good, Arthur says. My laptop fan is still screaming on the desk, a pathetic, high-pitched whine. It sounds like a child's toy compared to the high-powered machinery I'm listening to. The sound is suddenly unbearable. I reach over and push the laptop lid down. The shriek dies with a soft click, leaving the room in a silence filled only by the hum of the AC unit and the voices on the phone. A digital tribunal assembled in my motel room. Priya's voice cuts back in. Accessing bank data. Stand by. The silence stretches. I can feel my own heart beating. A heavy, dull thud against my ribs. I'm an audience member at my own life's autopsy. Got it, Priya says. Her tone is tight, sharp as a scalpel. Arthur, this wasn't just systematic theft. This is a liquidation. This is an exit plan. My stomach clenches. Explain, Arthur commands. Wire room data shows 3 cashier's checks issued from their primary checking account, all dated last week, totaling $90,000. They were made payable to a shell corporation. The name, Arthur demands. Belize Vista Escapes, LLC. Belize, the name of a country, not a company. I feel a cold dread creep up my spine. They are running, Arthur says. It is not a question. They are running tomorrow, Priya corrects, her voice devoid of emotion. I'm running their passports and credit cards against airline manifests. Hold. More silence. Just the faint tap-tap-tap of her keyboard. Yes. Confirmed. Lydia Mercer. Graham Mercer. 2 one-way. First-class tickets. Mesa Verde to Dallas-Fort Worth. Connecting to Amber Cay. Belize. Flight 1107. Departs tomorrow morning at 6:05 a.m. Tomorrow. In less than 7 hours. The realization hits me like a physical blow. The spa photo. The thumbs up. It wasn't just negligence. It was a goodbye. They were planning to empty the last $200,000 from the trust, take their $90,000 in cash, and disappear to a beach. They were leaving me here, in this room, to face an overdraft I couldn't pay, to be evicted, to be crushed under the weight of a life they had already picked clean. The cold, calculated cruelty of it is breathtaking. They weren't just leaving me behind. They were ensuring I couldn't follow. Jonah, Arthur's voice is a whip crack. I'm ahead of you, Jonah replies, his voice tight. The TURO includes a provision for an immediate TSA alert and custodial hold. I am routing the signed order directly to the Department of Homeland Security's regional office. The second Judge Alvarez's signature is on it. They will not make it to the gate. The machine is moving, fast and brutal. Priya, Arthur says, his voice returning to a controlled, level tone. The assets, the cabin. Title search on the Durango Ridge property is complete, Priya reports. The gift transfer from the trust to Sloan Mercer was recorded, as you indicated. However, it was immediately followed by a quitclaim deed, filed the same day. To whom? An LLC. Mesa Holdings Group, the manager of record. She pauses. Is a Reese Vallon. My mother's cousin, I whisper. The name tastes like acid. Reese. He was always around, always in on their projects, always smiling. They didn't just steal it. Arthur, Priya continues, her voice like ice. They flipped it. They used the quitclaim deed to transfer the property for $1. 6 months later, Mesa Holdings Group sold the cabin for a 100% market value profit. That profit was then funneled back to GL Mercer Holdings as a consulting fee. It was pure, simple money laundering, using your gift as the seed capital. My grandfather's phone pings. An email. He opens it and taps on a PDF, then turns the screen toward me. The loft contracts. Jonah's voice explains. Priya's team just pulled them from the leasing agency's server. I stare at the screen. It's a standard lease agreement for Harbor Light Lofts. Unit 7B. My unit. The rent is $4,200 a month. My eyes scan to the bottom, to the signature line under owner/lessor. It's not my name. It's my father's. Graham Mercer. He just signed it. I breathe, the disbelief thick in my throat. He just signed his name as if he owned it? Worse, Jonah interjects. Attached is a false owner affidavit. Notarized by a public notary, we are now investigating. In it, Graham Mercer swears under penalty of perjury that he has full legal and financial authority to lease the property, that is a separate felony, on top of the fraud and the theft. My father, the one who always talked about doing things the right way, and an honest day's work, a common criminal, a perjurer. Priya's voice cuts back in, relentless. The lifestyle expenditures are correlating. The club photos, Arthur. I'm sending you a link to Lydia's public-facing Lifestyle Homes social media profile. Check the post from 18 months ago. Arthur taps the link. The screen fills with my mother's curated life, the life that always made me feel small, untalented, and unsuccessful. Now, I see it for what it is, a catalog of my stolen assets. There she is, arm in arm with Graham at the Mesa Verde Country Club, raising champagne glasses. The caption, celebrating another win. Hard work pays off. I scroll. There's another photo. My mother's hand is on the polished wooden wheel of a boat. She's wearing a massive, glittering diamond watch I've never seen before. The sun is setting over a wide expanse of water. I look closer at the caption. Our new housewarming gift to ourselves, so in love. Nothing like that coastal view. Blessed coastal view, I murmur, confused. Mesa Verde is in the high desert. We're 500 miles from the nearest ocean. She's on a lake, Priya says, her voice flat and dry. I am cross-matching insurance records for GL Mercer Holdings, and here it is. 140-foot lake cruiser, a Biscayne Meridian, purchased 18 months ago. Funds traced directly from the F. Sloan Subtrust. The memo line on the check reads, Corporate Retreat Asset. They bought a yacht. They bought a yacht with my money. Money that was supposed to be for my education, for my life, and my mother posted a picture of it, calling it a housewarming gift, while I was selling my camera to pay for a room that smells like bleach. The numbers are no longer just numbers. They are knives. Every dollar figure is a separate wound. Every photograph is another twist of the blade. Priya, Arthur says, his voice low. Summarize the timeline. It's a clear and deliberate escalation, she replies instantly. I'm mapping it on a timeline board for the legal team as we speak. This didn't start with the POA fraud. It started smaller. 8 years ago, the mortgage payoff. A single, large theft. They probably justified it to themselves as a loan they'd pay back. They didn't. Then, the cars. Then the business investment for Lydia's LLC that was the start of the systemic bleed. The forged power of attorney 3 years ago, she continues, was the turning point. That's when they went from thieves to professionals. They realized the switch to paperless statements meant no one was watching. The theft became cascading, the loft rental, the cabin flip that was pure, greedy opportunism, the boat, the watches, the private club dues, and now, the Belize tickets. That's the final act. That's liquidation. They weren't just stealing from the trust anymore. They were planning their escape. She lays it all out, a neat, horrifying, and complete narrative. A story of a small borrow that festered into a cascading, multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. set to culminate in an escape to a tropical paradise in less than 7 hours. The speakerphone goes quiet. The montage of my stolen life is over. The evidence is on the table. A digital mountain of betrayal. I am numb. I am hollowed out. The person I was just 2 hours ago, the broke, ashamed, failing designer feels like a different person, a stranger, a fool, a child they kept in the dark while they plundered her inheritance. Arthur Hale looks at me. His face is grim, carved from stone. He reaches out, not to me, but to the heavy leather folder on the table, the Hale family trust folder that started this hurricane. The temporary restraining order will stop the bleeding, he says, his voice low and final. Jonah will secure the house and the vehicles. Priya's team will put a lien on the boat. The loft is already yours. We will have the tenants legally notified and evicted, and we will change the locks. He pauses, and his gaze holds mine, demanding my full attention. We will recover what can be recovered, he says. But the rest, the money they burned on spas and clubs, the business they ran into the ground, the cash they were attempting to flee the country with, that is not just recovery, that is litigation, that is restitution. He lets the next words hang in the air, heavier and sharper than any number. And, if you choose, it is prosecution. The choice, I realize, is still mine, and the night, and the fight, is far from over. Arthur is gone. The call is over. The heavy embossed leather folder sits on the wobbly table, a black hole of evidence in a room that suddenly feels too bright, too small, too real. For an hour, my motel room was the nerve center of a legal hurricane, a place of power and swift, brutal action. Now, it's just room 214 again. The silence that rushes back in is profound. Heavier and more absolute than the silence that came before. The only sounds are the ones from my own body, the ragged, shallow rasp of my breathing, the high-pitched, electric whine in my ears. I am alone. I stand up from the chair. My legs are weak, as if I've just run a marathon. I walk the 2 steps to the bed and sit down, then lie back. The polyester comforter is rough against my neck. I stare at the ceiling. The brown water stains I've been looking at for a week are still there. I'd seen them as ugly. Random blemishes. Proof of the building's decay, of my own. Now, they look different. They connect. Forming patterns. A crooked line here, a cluster there. Constellations of neglect. My mind, no longer racing, begins to play back the tape. Not the tape of Jonah and Priya, but the other one. The one that's been running my entire life. I am 23. I am standing in the kitchen of my first apartment, the one with the broken heater. My phone is pressed to my ear. Mom, I miscalculated. My student loan payment is due, and my paycheck is late. I'm going to overdraft. I just need $100, just until Friday. Lydia's voice, sighing, full of a weary disappointment that makes me feel like a child. Oh, Sloan, we just can't help. We're stretched so thin this month. You have no idea. The club dues just went up. You have to learn to manage your money. Stretched thin. I close my eyes. The memory so vivid it's painful. Stretched thin, she'd said. I checked the dates Priya had listed. That was the month they bought the Boreal touring sedan. They couldn't spare $100 for me because they were busy spending $120,000 of my own. I am 25. I skipped dinner for 3 nights in a row, eating nothing but saltine crackers from the back of my pantry, so I can make the minimum interest payment on my credit card, the one I'd used to buy textbooks. I remember the gnawing, acidic hunger in my stomach, and the sharper, deeper shame of having to do it. The same week, Lydia posted a photo of a simple, rustic dinner with her lifestyle group. It was at a restaurant where the appetizers cost more than my electric bill. That was the month of the travel and wellness withdrawals. My hunger paid for their first-class seats. Every no they ever gave me, every we can't, honey, every you need to pull yourself up, every we're not made of money. It was all a lie, a cold, calculated, brutal lie, designed to keep me desperate, to keep me scrambling, to keep me from ever looking up and asking the right questions. They weren't just denying me help, they were actively, systemically, stealing my ability to help myself, and then shaming me for needing it. The memory that finally breaks me is the one from my college graduation. I'm in my cap and gown, sweating under the May sun. My parents are there, smiling for the cameras, putting their arms around me for the photos. Our daughter, the graduate. Later, at a crowded, mediocre restaurant, Lydia presented me with a gift. It wasn't an envelope with cash. It wasn't a piece of jewelry. It was a book, a thin, brightly colored paperback, the Savvy Savers budgeting workbook. "This is what you need now. Sloan," she'd said, her smile bright and condescending. "The real world isn't a classroom. This will teach you how to really handle money." I remember the hot flush of shame, the feeling of being misunderstood, of being seen as hopelessly juvenile. I'd smiled, and I'd thanked her. Now, I see the scene for what it was. I see my mother, handing me a $10 workbook on how to save pennies, while her fingers were still tapping on a keyboard, approving a wire transfer for $50,000 of my money to pay for her imported marble countertops. The Lydia Mercer Lifestyle Homes, LLC investment, the audacity of it, the breathtaking, psychopathic cruelty. The shame I've been carrying for a decade, the shame of being poor, of failing, of not being good enough, doesn't just fade, it burns, it combusts. A chemical reaction in my chest, and in its place, something new rises from the ash. It is clarity. The clarity is a white-hot, sterile light that illuminates every dark corner of my past. I wasn't a failure. I was a victim. I wasn't bad with money. I had no money. I wasn't a disappointment. I was a bank account. And the clarity morphs again. It sharpens. It hardens. It becomes anger. This isn't the hot, messy anger that makes you scream or throw things. It is a cold, structural anger. It's the anger of a support beam that has discovered it was hollow all along. It's the anger of a foundation that has been built on sand. It is an anger that demands to be made right. And that anger, that cold, precise, perfect anger, it finally gives me aim. I sit up. My hands are not shaking. I pick up my phone. My thumb hovers over the M in my contacts. It's 1:47 a.m. She'll be on call. She'll be awake. I press the button. It rings twice. Her voice is instant, alert, and thick with exhaustion. "Sloan. What's wrong? You okay?" My voice comes out, but it doesn't sound like mine. It's flat, hard. "Mara." "Sloan, what is it you sound?" "They stole everything," I say. "My parents. They stole everything from me. And I need you." The line is silent for exactly 1 second. Then, I hear the jingle of keys, the squeak of a locker opening. "I'm in Tucson," she says, her voice already shifting from tired doctor to Mara. "That's a 3-hour drive. I can be at the Sagebrush Inn by 5 a.m. Tell me." "No," I say. "Don't drive. I needed to tell someone. I needed to say it out loud to someone real." "Sloan, listen to me," she says, her voice firm. "I'm on a 36-hour shift. I'm running on gas station coffee and spite. I was about to go suture a guy who tried to juggle a chainsaw. Trust me, driving to you is the sanest thing I'll do all night. I'm coming. Lock your door. Don't talk to anyone. I'll text you when I'm at the gas station next door." The line clicks dead. She is a force of nature, just like Arthur's Priya, but she's my force of nature. I do as she says. I sit. I wait. The anger and clarity hold me upright, a new kind of spine. At 4:52 a.m., my phone buzzes. "Here, coffee." I unbolt the door and she's there, a whirlwind in blue scrubs, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun that's barely holding on. She looks exhausted and magnificent. In one hand, she's holding 2 large, steaming cups of gas station coffee, the same brand I was going to buy for my pathetic birthday cupcake. In the other, she's holding a pack of yellow sticky notes and a black Sharpie. She shoulders past me into the room. her eyes taking in everything: the peeling wallpaper, the shoebox of receipts, the heavy leather folder on the table. "Okay," she says, kicking the door shut behind her. "You were right. This room is a crime scene." She shoves a coffee into my hand. It's hot, and the smell is acrid and real. "Talk," she says. And then, "We're building a war room." I talk. For 45 minutes. The words pour out of me. The trust. The $3.6 million. The loft. The cabin. The cars. The boat. The forged POA. The spa selfie. The Belize tickets. Mara doesn't interrupt. She just listens. Her dark eyes getting wider and harder with every new detail. She sips her coffee, her expression turning from exhaustion to a kind of profound, righteous fury that matches my own. When I'm finished, I'm shaking again, the adrenaline of the confession leaving me spent. I start, my voice cracking. "I'm so stupid. I had his voicemail. Mara, Arthur's, 6 months ago. I almost called him." I confess the rest of it, the part I hadn't even admitted to myself. I deleted it. I didn't want to be the broke granddaughter. I didn't want him to see me living like this. I was so ashamed. I finally say the last, darkest part out loud. The fear that has been coiling in my stomach since Jonah read the first line item. "What if it wasn't just the money?" I whisper, looking at the dregs of my coffee. What if they never loved me at all? What if I was just a name on an account, a collateral asset they could borrow against? What if I was just a thing to them? The question hangs in the air. The most terrifying question of all. Mara puts her coffee cup down with a sharp thud on the particle board desk. She takes my shoulders and turns me so I'm facing her. Her eyes are fierce. "Sloan Mercer, you listen to me," she says. "Love is not a spa selfie. Love is not a bullshit budgeting workbook. Love is what shows up with jumper cables at 2 a.m. when your car dies. Love is what listens to you cry about a bad haircut for an hour. Love is what drives 3 hours on no sleep to sit with you in a shit motel room because you said you needed them." She taps my chest with her finger. "Love is what we do, what you do, what they did. That's not love. That's a parasite. That's a sickness. And you don't mourn a parasite. You kill it. You burn it out. Are we clear?" I look at her, my best friend, the sister I chose, and I nod. A tear, the one I hadn't let fall, finally rolls down my cheek. She wipes it away with the rough sleeve of her scrubs. "Good," she says. "Now, the mirror." She pulls me into the small, mildewed bathroom. She uncaps the black Sharpie. "This is your war," she says. "You need rules of engagement. Write them down." I take the marker. The plastic is warm from her hand. I look at my reflection. My eyes are red-rimmed. My face is pale. But my expression is one I don't recognize. It's hard. It's set. I lift the marker to the glass. The smell of the ink sharp and chemical. I write the first line, in big block letters. I believe me. They'd spent my entire life making me doubt my own reality. No more. I write the second line. I deserve receipts. This isn't about family or feelings anymore. This is about facts. This is about the cold. Hard numbers. I write the last line. I choose action. No more waiting. No more passivity. No more being the person things happen to. I believe me. I deserve receipts. I choose action. We stand there, the two of us, looking at the words on the mirror. The sun is just starting to tinge the gray sky outside, the first hint of the day that my parents were supposed to use to escape. "Okay," Mara says, her voice soft now. "Go to sleep." "I can't. They're the TSA." "Priya and Jonah are handling the TSA," she says, steering me back to the bed. "Your job is over for tonight. Your job is to rest. The real fight starts in a few hours. I'll keep watch." I am too exhausted to argue. I crawl under the rough comforter. Mara sits in the chair, the one Arthur sat in, pulling out her phone to silently doom scroll, a guardian in scrubs. I reach under my pillow and feel for the shoebox. the archive of my failure. I pull it out and drop it into the trash can. Then, I reach for the heavy leather folder, the Hale Family Trust. I slide it under my pillow. It doesn't feel like paper and leather. It feels like a shield, a weapon, a parachute. I close my eyes, and for the first time in my adult life, I sleep. I woke up not to the sound of an alarm, but to the sharp, insistent buzz of my phone on the cheap nightstand. The flimsy curtains were failing to hold back the bright 8:00 a.m. sunlight, a harsh blade of light that cut across the room. Mara was still asleep in the chair, her head tilted back at an uncomfortable angle, the black Sharpie still clutched in her hand. My body was stiff, but my mind was perfectly, terrifyingly clear. I had slept for 3 hours, but it was a sleep so deep and final, it felt like a kind of rebirth. The phone buzzed again. It wasn't a call. It was a cascade of emails. From Jonah Price. From Priya Das. I opened the first one. It was from Priya. Time-stamped 06:10 a.m. Subject: Flight risk neutralized. The body was short. A series of staccato beats. Just like her voice. TSA alert triggered at 05:48 a.m. Mesa Verde International Airport. Subjects Graham and Lydia Mercer were denied boarding for Flight 1107 to Amber Cay. Passports flagged in federal system. Subjects are grounded. They didn't make it. The first satisfying click of the machine locking into place. They were trapped. The next email, from Jonah, was time-stamped 07:20 a.m. Subject asset seizure phase 1, complete. I sat up, my heart hammering a new, steady rhythm against my ribs. This wasn't a dawn raid with battering rams. This was the corporate legal chess game Arthur had promised. It was a dawn raid on paper, and it was devastating. Sloan, the email began. As of 7:00 a.m., the signed temporary restraining order and judicial freeze notices were executed. The subjects had returned to the Sandstone Vista property from the airport. They were cooperative. I read the bullet points, my hand steady as I scrolled. 7:05 a.m. Mesa Verde Sheriff's Civil Unit served the judicial freeze order at the Sandstone Vista property. The house is now a frozen asset. It cannot be sold, mortgaged, or used as collateral. 07:10 a.m. Towing crews, acting on the judicial lien, have reclaimed the Aurora Motors electric SUV and the Boreal touring sedan. Both are being moved to a secured impound lot pending valuation and auction. 07:15 a.m. The harbor master at Mesilla Lake Marina was served. The 40-foot lake cruiser registered to GL Mercer Holdings has been seized and locked. 07:17 a.m. The Mesa Verde Country Club has been notified. The membership for Graham and Lydia Mercer has been indefinitely suspended, citing pending investigation into financial discrepancies on their account. It was clinical. It was precise. It was finished. While I slept, Arthur's team had systematically dismantled the entire infrastructure of their stolen life: the house, the cars, the boat, the club, the 4 pillars of their social status, all kicked out from under them in the span of 17 minutes. The email continued, detailing the ripple effects. Simultaneously, Jonah wrote, a process server delivered a notice to Mr. Reese Vallon at his place of business. The notice voids the Durango Ridge cabin transfer, citing fraudulent conveyance. Any attempt by his LLC to sell, mortgage, or otherwise leverage the property is now legally blocked. The asset is secured. Another click. My mother's cousin, their accomplice, was now in the net. My office has also filed the motion to claw back all rents collected from Harbor Light Lofts. Unit 7B. The current tenants have been notified by certified mail this morning. They have been instructed that, effective immediately, their rent is to be paid directly into a new, court-controlled registry. Those funds will be held in escrow, pending transfer to you. They weren't just stopped from stealing more. The machine was now reversing, pulling back every dollar that had been siphoned away. A new email pinged. This one was from Priya. Subject forensic packet for hearing exhibits, a B. Sloan, she wrote, We are compiling the exhibit binder. The court has scheduled a probable cause hearing for tomorrow to make the temporary orders permanent. I've attached 2 key items for your review. This is the proof. I opened the first attachment. It was a PDF, e-sign overlay expert report. My screen filled with a cold, technical diagram. On the left was my actual signature, which Jonah's team had pulled from my original college aid application forms that the trust had on file from a decade ago. It was fluid, the S open, the E at the end trailing upward. On the right was the forged signature from the power of attorney. It was static, cramped, and the angle was all wrong. The third image showed them overlaid. They didn't match in a single place. The forensic expert's note was blunt. 0-point correlation. The forgery is a clear digital image overlay, sourced from a different root file and resized, not authentic, not written. The words I had written on the mirror echoed in my head. I deserve receipts. I opened the second attachment. Bank stills, zip. The file unzipped into a series of grainy, time-stamped photos from Messia Bank's overhead security cameras. Still 1 32:14 a.m. 04:12, 2021. Lydia, my mother, is at the teller window. She is smiling, her hair perfect, handing over a withdrawal slip. Priya had helpfully drawn a red arrow pointing to it, with a note. Matches 145K wire for Aurora Motors. Sataj, 10. 33:01 a.m. 04:12, 2021. Graham, my father, is at one of the customer desks in the lobby, signing a stack of papers. Another red circle. Signing GL Mercer Holdings consulting invoices, used to justify LLC business investment write-offs. There they were, not just a digital ghost on an IP address. There they were, in the flesh, on camera, actively, cheerfully, together, performing the theft, smiling as they signed the papers that gutted my future. Mara stirred in the chair, blinking her eyes open. What time is it?" she mumbled, stretching her neck. "It's 8:15, I said. My voice was calm. "They didn't get on the plane, and we have the cars, the boat, and the house." She blinked, processing. "Holy shit," she breathed. "That was fast. Coffee." In a minute, as if summoned by the very thought of them, my phone vibrated. Not an email, a call. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in weeks, Graham Dad. My blood didn't run cold. It didn't do anything. It just kept pumping. I stared at the name. Mara watched me, her expression hardening. "You don't have to answer that." My hand was perfectly steady. I pressed decline. A second later, a notification, new voicemail. I looked at Mara. She nodded. I put the phone on speaker and pressed play. His voice filled the small motel room. It wasn't the angry, shouting voice I expected. It was worse. It was the calm, paternal, disappointed voice he used when I'd failed a math test in high school. The voice designed to make me feel small, stupid, and ashamed. Sloan, pick up. This is an absolute nightmare. Your grandfather, he's lost his mind. He's clearly manipulating you. These lawyers, these seizures, this is all insane. This is a simple misunderstanding. Sloan, his voice was laced with that awful counterfeit sincerity. You need to call us. You need to call us first. Talk to us. Family should resolve family matters. This isn't how we do things. Click. The voicemail ended. Family should resolve family. The same family that forged my name. The same family that was fleeing to Belize. The hypocrisy was so pure, so potent. It was almost admirable. "Wow," Mara said, her voice dripping with venom. "That's a vintage. Grade A guilt trip. He's good." Before I could even process it, the phone lit up again. A text message. From Lydia Mom. The mask wasn't just off. It had been incinerated. It was a wall of text. All caps. Riddled with typos. Sloan Alara Mercer. I don't know who you think you are, Do you have any idea what you've done? They took my car. My car. They froze our accounts. After everything we have done for you, we were safeguarding that money, safeguarding it. You are too young, too irresponsible to handle millions of dollars. You would have blown it all in a year. We were protecting you. Protecting you from yourself. You are an ungrateful child, and you have humiliated this family. You need to call off these animals and fix this. Now. Fix what you broke. I read it twice. Safeguarding it in a 40-foot boat. Safeguarding it in first-class tickets to a country with no extradition treaty. Safeguarding it in marble countertops and private club fees. I didn't reply. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I felt nothing at all. I just took a screenshot of the text message. I took a screenshot of the voicemail log. I attached them to a new email and sent them to Jonah Price and Priya Das. My message was one sentence. For the probable cause hearing. My phone buzzed one last time. It was an email from Priya. Subject preliminary asset recovery estimate. Sloan, it read, based on the forced sale auction value of the seized assets house, cars, boat, and the full clawback of the cabin flip and loft rents, our current net recoverable estimate is $2,050,000. This number will rise as we continue to trace and liquidate secondary assets like the diamond watch. This is a strong start. I looked at the number. $2,050,000. I opened my banking app, $418.12. The student loan autopay was still pending. A ticking bomb. The room was quiet. My phone rang. It wasn't my parents. It was Arthur. I answered. Sloan. His voice was gravel. I saw the emails, I said. You saw the text messages, he replied. He's already seen them. Of course he had. Yes. The court has frozen their assets based on the civil fraud, Arthur said, his voice flat and tactical. Jonah has a very strong case. We will recover a significant portion of what was taken. That is the civil track. It is a lawsuit. It is about money. He paused. A deliberate, heavy silence. I knew what was coming. The last, and most important, choice. But the evidence Priya has compiled, the forged signature, the bank stills, the calculated flight risk, the attempted escape this morning that is not just fraud. That is a criminal matter. Forgery, wire fraud, conspiracy. He let the words settle, each one a stone dropping into a deep well. The district attorney's office would be very interested in that file. That track that is not about money, it is about justice. It is about jail time. He was asking me to make the final move. This was the end of the chess game. The next step is yours. Sloan, he said. Civil only, or do we refer for criminal prosecution? I turned and looked at the words still written on the mirror. I believe me. I deserve receipts. I choose action. I thought of the budgeting workbook. I thought of the thumbs up emoji. I thought of them. Smiling at the bank camera, stealing my life, and then calling me ungrateful for finally catching them. Arthur, I said, my voice steady and cold as the bottom of a lake. We do both. The courthouse hallway thrums. It's an institutional sound, a low-voltage hum of anxiety, stale coffee, and the echo of hundreds of voices bouncing off the polished marble floors. I sit on a hard wooden bench, my back straight, my hands clasped in my lap. Jonah sits beside me, his briefcase open, silently reviewing a binder tabbed with color-coded exhibits. Arthur stands a few feet away, leaning lightly on his cane, staring at the elevator bank. Priya, Arthur's chief of staff, had sent a car for me this morning. Not to the Sagebrush Inn I'd checked out yesterday, the bill paid in full by Arthur's trust, but to a nondescript corporate apartment she had secured. With the car came a box. Inside was a simple, dark navy blue sheath dress and a pair of low black heels, armor. The note attached had read, "The hearing is at 10 a.m. Judge Alvarez. She does not suffer fools." The elevator doors slide open with a soft ding, and they are there. My first coherent thought is, they look cheap. The illusion of their wealth. The one they had curated so carefully at my expense is gone. It was built on my money, and now that the money is frozen, the illusion has evaporated. Lydia, the woman who lived in spa robes and designer silks, is wearing beige, muted flats. Her hair, usually a perfect, expensive blonde, shows an inch of dark, mousy roots. Her face is pale and puffy, her eyes narrowed to slits. Graham is beside her, looking like a man drowning in his own clothes. He's wearing an off-the-rack suit, a sickly, shiny shade of brown that's at least 2 sizes too big. The shoulders droop. The sleeves hang past his knuckles. He looks like a child playing dress-up in his father's closet. He's fidgeting with the knot of a truly ugly tie. They see us. Graham flinches, a physical recoil. His eyes dart to the floor, to the ceiling, to the exit sign, anywhere but at me, anywhere but at Arthur. Lydia, however, stares right at me. Her expression isn't shame, it isn't remorse, it is pure, undiluted hatred. So potent it feels like a physical force. She takes a half step toward me, her hands clenching. Arthur moves. He doesn't lurch. He simply shifts his weight and plants his cane on the marble tile between us. Tick. The sound is sharp, precise. A metronome setting the pace. It's the only sound in the hallway. It stops Lydia cold. Her mouth snaps shut. Their lawyer, a rumpled, overwhelmed-looking man, puts a hand on Graham's arm and steers them past us, down the hall. They avert their eyes as they pass. They don't look at Arthur. They don't look at me. Sloane, Jonah's voice is calm. He slides a document across the bench toward me, along with a heavy black ink pen. This is the final affidavit, your sworn statement testifying that you never granted, signed, or had knowledge of the limited power of attorney, nor did you have knowledge of the trust's existence until October 21st. I pick up the pen. I remember my hand shaking in the motel room, the tremor so bad I couldn't hold the photograph of the loft. I remember the nausea, the cold sweat of panic. I look at the signature line. My hand, now, is perfectly steady. I sign my name. The ink flows, black and certain. The courtroom is heavy, paneled in dark wood that seems to absorb all the light. It's not a full trial. Just this, a probable cause hearing to determine the future of the civil case and the asset freeze. We sit at one table, my parents and their rumpled lawyer at the other, the judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and zero patience, glares down at us all from her high bench. Mr. Price, she says, her voice cutting. You filed this motion. The floor is yours. Make it quick. Jonah stands. He is a machine of calm, focused logic. Thank you, Your Honor. We are here today to demonstrate probable cause that a systematic, multi-million-dollar fraud has occurred, and to request that the temporary asset freeze on the defendants, Graham and Lydia Mercer, be made permanent. Objection, their lawyer says, half rising from his chair. The language is inflammatory. This is a family matter. The judge glances at him over her glasses. It was a family matter until $3 million allegedly went missing. Sit down. The lawyer sits. Jonah continues, his voice never rising. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a calculated criminal enterprise perpetrated by the defendants against their own daughter. Their lawyer tries again when it's his turn. He shuffles his papers, his voice wheedling. Your Honor, my clients, Mr. and Mrs. Mercer, they are parents. The fund in question was for their daughter. They were merely exercising parental discretion. He says the words as if they are a magic spell. They were safeguarding the funds, as is their right as parents. They feared their daughter at her young age would be irresponsible. I watch the judge. She slowly takes off her reading glasses and sets them on the desk. Her eyebrow doesn't just climb, it launches into orbit, disappearing into her hairline. Parental discretion, counsel, she asks, her voice dripping with a sarcasm so cold it could freeze water. Safeguarding. She leans into her microphone. I believe Mr. Price has some exhibits related to this safeguarding. Let's see them. Jonah walks to the podium. This isn't a chess game anymore. This is a demolition. We begin with Exhibit J, Your Honor. The large monitors in the courtroom flicker to life. It's not a document. It's my mother's Instagram reel. Her, at the Daybreak Canyon Spa. Robe open. Smiling. Clinking champagne glasses with a friend. The timestamp is visible. This, Jonah says, was posted by Ms. Lydia Mercer on October 19th. We have provided phone records showing this was posted at the exact same hour my client, Ms. Mercer, texted her mother to say she had been laid off and was, quote, scared. It is also, as our forensic report confirms, the exact time and location down to the IP address of the spa's Wi-Fi that the fraudulent power of attorney was electronically signed. I hear a sharp, strangled gasp from my mother's table. Next, Exhibit L. The screen changes. Scanned copies of checks. These are the rental checks from the tenants in Ms. Mercer's loft. The loft she never knew she owned. Jonah uses a laser pointer. You'll note the pay-to-line. The defendants created a shell LLC named Sloan's Loft, LLC, an act of blatant identity theft, and then deposited those checks directly into their personal GL Mercer Holdings account, over $100,000 in diverted funds. And finally, Your Honor, Exhibit N. The screen changes again. The one-way flight itineraries to Amber Cay, Belize. These tickets, Jonah says, were purchased the day after my client's first panicked text message. They were scheduled to depart the morning after my client discovered the fraud. This was not parental discretion. This was an escape plan. He holds up a single sheet of paper. This is a printout of the email from Lydia Mercer to Graham Mercer, confirming the tickets. Her instructions, at the bottom, are simple: do not forward, delete after reading. The courtroom is absolutely silent. The judge looks at my parents, her expression hardening to one of pure contempt. She looks at their lawyer. Counsel, your parental discretion argument appears to have deficiencies. Do you have anything at all to counter this? Lydia whispers, a frantic, hissing sound, into her lawyer's ear. He looks pained. He stands, his shoulders slumped. Your Honor, my client, Ms. Mercer, she insists the keys to the loft. They were merely holding them for a ceremonial surprise for her birthday. The judge stares at him for a full, agonizing 10 seconds. Then, she holds up a hand. A bailiff, who had been standing by the evidence table, nods. He picks up a clear plastic evidence box and places it on the judge's bench. This box, the judge says, her voice booming in the quiet room, was recovered from Ms. Lydia Mercer's handbag at the airport yesterday morning by TSA. Pursuant to the judicial order, it contains, she tips the box, a set of keys, attached to an elegant brass Harbor Light Lofts fob, clatters onto her desk. The keys to the loft, the judge says, her voice dangerously soft. She was taking them to Belize with her. She locks eyes with my mother. A surprise she intended to spring from a non-extradition country. I assume Lydia turns a shade of white I have never seen. Graham seems to physically shrink, caving in on himself inside his comically large suit. The judge slams her gavel. The sound cracks through the room. The temporary restraining order and asset freeze are hereby made permanent. Mr. Price's office will draft a full restitution plan. To be approved by this court, every single cent traceable to the F. Sloan Trust will be returned. The house, the cars, the boat, the contents of every account will be liquidated. She then leans forward, pointing her pen at the two of them. And let me be perfectly clear. This is a civil proceeding. But the evidence presented here today, the forged signature, the wire fraud, the false owner affidavits, the conspiracy, the blatant flight risk, it stinks to high heaven of criminal intent. If I see $1 moved, one account you forgot about, one single act of non-compliance, or one shred of interference or contact with your daughter, I will personally pick up the phone and refer this entire sordid file to the district attorney's office for immediate prosecution. Am I understood? It's over. We are outside, back in the thrumming hallway. But the thrum has changed. It's the press. Jonah must have tipped them off. The second we exit the courtroom doors, a wall of cameras and microphones surrounds us. Sloan, what do you have to say to your parents? Ms. Mercer, is it true they stole millions? How does it feel? Are you relieved? What's the next step? The questions fly at me, a barrage of flashbulbs and hungry, prying voices. They want a show. They want tears. They want me to rail against the injustice, to play the public victim. I look straight ahead, at the exit sign at the end of the hall. I think of the words on the motel mirror. I choose action. This was the action. The rest is just noise. I say nothing. I choose silence over spectacle. Arthur puts a steadying hand on the small of my back. We walk. His cane ticks on the tile. Tick, tick, tick. A steady, relentless rhythm, cutting right through the chaos. We're almost at the main doors. Sloan, her voice. That hiss. I stop. I have to. I turn. Lydia has broken away from her lawyer. Her face twisted into a mask of pure reptilian rage. The press surges toward her. You'll regret this, she hisses, her voice low, but carrying, shaking with a fury that is almost primal. You'll regret humiliating us. We're your family. I just look at her, the woman who gave me a budgeting workbook, the woman who was fleeing to a beach while I faced eviction, the woman who, even now, after all this, still sees her humiliation as the crime and my survival as the betrayal. I feel nothing. The great, aching void of love and duty I'd carried for her my entire life is gone. It's just an empty space. Before I can even think of a reply, Arthur steps slightly in front of me, a shield. He looks at Lydia. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't sneer. He chuckles. It's a soft sound. Dry. Just air passing through his throat. It's not a sound of humor. It's the sound of a vault door being sealed. It's the sound of a heavy iron lock clicking shut, once and for all. He turns, his cane tapping the floor, and we walk out of the courthouse into the bright, blinding sunlight, leaving them behind in the shadows. The courthouse was yesterday. The adrenaline has drained away, leaving behind a strange, hollow quiet and the unfamiliar sensation of solid ground beneath my feet. I'm standing in a lobby that smells of polished wood, old money, and the faint, clean scent of lemon oil. Mara is beside me, vibrating with an energy that's half excitement, half caffeinated impatience. She drove back down from Tucson as soon as her shift ended, refusing to let me do this alone. A tall doorman with a kind, wrinkled face steps out from behind a gleaming desk. He doesn't look at me with suspicion. He doesn't ask who I'm here to see. He just smiles. Ms. Mercer, he says, his voice warm and respectful. Welcome to Harbor Light Lofts. We've been expecting you. He hands me a small, heavy envelope. Inside are 2 sleek, gray key fobs and a set of actual, old-fashioned metal keys. Arthur. He had called ahead. He had handled everything. Mara grabs my hand, her fingers gripping mine tightly. Come on, she breathes. Let's see the stolen kingdom. We ride the elevator in a pressurized silence. The ding at the 7th floor makes me jump. We walk down a plush carpeted hallway, our footsteps muffled. Unit 7B. The door is heavy, solid walnut, not the paper-thin, hollow core door of the motel. I tap the fob. A small green light flashes. I push it open. The first thing that hits me is the light. My entire life in room 214 was defined by shadow, by the buzzing red neon sign and the single, sickly yellow lamp. This is a floor-to-ceiling wall of pure, unfiltered sunlight. It floods the space, pouring across an expanse of polished hardwood floors so vast I could fit my entire motel room in the entryway. It illuminates the rough, warm texture of an exposed brick wall, the high industrial chic ceiling, the gleaming steel of the kitchen, and there, in the middle of it all, is the staging furniture from the photograph, The sleek gray sofa, the bay blue rug, the cowhide chair, and in the corner, the fiddle-leaf fig tree. It's huge. Its leaves glossy and healthy, thriving in the genuine, real light. It's exactly as I saw it in the picture. It's perfect, and it's utterly impersonal. This was never staged for me. This was a trap, a set. This was the furniture my parents, Graham and Lydia, had used to lure in renters, to extract $4,200 a month from an asset they never told me I had. It is the beautiful, hollow evidence of their deepest betrayal. Mara seems to sense the sudden chill I feel. She walks to the center of the bay blue rug and spins around once, her arms out. "Well," she says, her voice echoing in the huge space. "The thieves had impeccable taste. That's something. Now, let's get this stranger's stuff out of your house and make it yours." The next few weeks are a blur of pragmatic action. Not just survival, but building. I discover the deep, abiding pleasure of competence. Mara and I spend the first weekend. Arthur arranges for a moving crew, the same ones who impounded my parents' cars, to haul every stick of the rental staging furniture into a storage unit. The empty space doesn't feel empty. It feels potential. My first purchase isn't a couch. It's a desk. A wide, simple, heavy wooden desk. I place it by the massive window overlooking the Northlight district, where I can see the city and the sky. My old, shrieking laptop, the one that sounded like a jet engine, is now in a drawer, a relic of a past life. It's been replaced by a sleek, powerful workstation, the first purchase I made from the initial recovery funds Jonah transferred into my new, pristine bank account. I open my design software. The fan is silent. The processor is instantaneous. I create a new file. I design a logo. Not for a dive bar, but for myself, Sloan Mercer Studio. The font is clean, strong, and minimalist. Then, I open a new document. I design an invoice template. It feels like the most powerful document I've ever created. My name, my address, this address, my terms. Arthur doesn't just give me money. He gives me access. He doesn't offer sympathy. He offers contacts. He calls me. "Sloan, lunch, Friday, noon." It's not a request. It's a summons. I learn from Priya that his doctor has ordered him to slow down. The 24/7 legal marathon has taken a toll. He has ignored the order and then compromised lunches, not marathons. We meet at a quiet, old-world restaurant. He's already at the table with two other people, a man and a woman who radiate the same hyper-competent energy as Priya. "Sloan," Arthur says, gesturing with his fork. "This is Ben Rook and Anya Vale, Rookvale Ventures. They build brands for companies that don't exist yet. You build brands. Talk." The lunch is an interrogation. They ask about my process, my aesthetic, my technical skills. I don't talk about my family. I talk about my work. I show them the logos I'd sketched by lamplight in the motel, now digitized and clean on my tablet. By the time the coffee arrives, Anya Vale slides her business card across the table. "We have 2 pre-seed tech portfolios that need a full identity suite. Your style is what they're missing. Can you send an invoice for a retainer? We need to start Monday." I land 2 clients, 2 real clients. In 1 week, I send my first invoice. Mara, a spreadsheet savant, is horrified by my previous financial state. "You lived on vibes and panic, Sloan," she says during a late-night video call. Her face tired, but determined from the hospital. "No more. We are building a fortress." She builds me a cash flow sheet. It's a work of art, a beautiful, complex fortress of cells and formulas. Every recovered dollar is accounted for. Every new invoice is tracked. Separate columns for taxes, for expenses, for long-term savings. She labels the main tab. In all caps, no more guessing. I take her spreadsheet to Pioneer Mutual, a boring investment house Arthur recommends. I sit with an advisor who looks like he's never experienced a strong emotion in his life. He's perfect. I don't want excitement. I've had enough of that. I want stability. We open a boring portfolio, index funds, municipal bonds, conservative holdings. I set up automatic transfers from my new business account. They are small and steady. I watch the first transfer go through. It's the opposite of a thrill. It's the feeling of a heavy anchor finally hitting the seabed, gripping the sand. It's the feeling of weight. I am working. I am invoicing. I am paying bills, my own bills, for this loft, with money I earned. But the ghost of the motel room is still there. The ghost of the girl who thought she was a failure. One night, I find a pack of the yellow sticky notes Mara left behind. I pull one out and grab a pen. I write a letter to myself. It's not a war room decree from the mirror. It's a promise. You are not a fluke. I write, you are not the broke granddaughter. You are a worker who deserves to be paid. Your work has value. Your time has value. You have value. I stick it to the side of my new monitor. The full restitution is slow, a grinding, legal process, but Priya is relentless. She arrives at my loft one afternoon, unannounced, holding a thick, black 3-ring binder. It's heavy. For your records, she says. The final audit trail. I open it. It's the digital audit. Printed and bound. Every receipt, every return, every clawback, every single dollar, logged and accounted for. There's a tab for the house auction, a tab for the cars, a tab for the boat, a tab for the jewelry, including Lydia's diamond watch, which they located at a high-end pawn shop across town. It is the heaviest, most beautiful thing I've ever held. It is the receipt for my stolen life. That night, I don't celebrate. The loft is still mostly empty, the furniture sparse. I sit on the hardwood floor, leaning against the cold brick wall, looking out the massive window at the city lights. I'm eating green olives, straight from the jar. The salt is sharp, the air is quiet, my laptop is off, my phone is silent. For the first time in my entire adult life, I feel the rare, unambiguous weight of safety. I feel settled. I take a deep breath. It doesn't snag in my chest. I'm okay. And then, my laptop, sitting on the floor nearby. Chimes, a new email. I sigh, wiping my hands on my jeans, and crawl over to it. I don't recognize the sender. It looks like an automated address from a local collections agency. The subject line makes my blood, which had been flowing so warmly, turn to ice. Subject notice of owner's lien. Property Sagebrush Inn, room 214. I click it open. My heart starts to hammer that old, familiar rhythm of panic. It's a formal notice, a legal claim. An attachment is included. Attached bill for damages and services rendered. I open the attachment. It's an itemized bill for $10,000. It lists carpet replacement biohazard, full furniture disposal contaminated, wall remediation structural, biohazard cleaning services, for my old room, room 214. This is impossible. This is wrong. Arthur paid for my room for a week. I left it clean. I scroll down, my hands starting to shake. At the bottom, under billable party, it doesn't list Arthur. It lists me. The safety I felt, it shatters. It evaporates. The anchor is gone. I'm adrift again. My phone, sitting next to the laptop, buzzes. A text from an unknown number. We know you have money now. You need to pay what you owe. The feeling of safety, the rare, unambiguous weight of it, lasted for exactly 90 seconds. It shattered the instant I read the email. A $10,000 lien from the Sagebrush Inn. The text message that followed. We know you have money now. You need to pay what you owe. Wasn't a threat. It was a taunt. The old panic, the one that lived in my stomach, surged. The taste of acid and gas station coffee, biohazard, contaminated, structural. They were describing the room I had lived in. They were describing me. But the panic was different now. It wasn't a flood. It was a signal. The girl who ate olives on the floor didn't cry. She didn't call the motel owner and plead. She didn't call Arthur in a panic. I took a breath. I opened a new email. I choose action. I forwarded the email, the attached bill, and a screenshot of the text message to one person, Priya Das. My message was 3 words. Please analyze this. Her reply came in under 5 minutes. It was not a "don't worry" email, it was a declaration of war. "Sloan, this is not a collections agency, this is a countermove. The LLC that filed the lien, SV Hospitality Partners, did not exist 4 days ago. The Sagebrush Inn's owner of record, a Mr. Patel, sold his management note. He was underwater." My blood ran cold. Who bought it? Priya's next email was just a single, attached screenshot of the new LLC's registration filing. Manager of record Graham Mercer. My father. It was a pincer move. They had lost the war, so they had started an insurgency. They had taken whatever non-frozen cash they had left or gotten a loan from their co-conspirator, Reese Vallon, and bought the one tiny piece of leverage they could find my past. They had purchased the one place on earth that represented my rock bottom. They were trying to make me pay $10,000 to silence the claim that I was, quite literally, human contamination, as if on cue. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Mara, who was back in Tucson, deep in a surgical rotation. "Sloan, do not look. I am warning you. Do not look at your mother's social media," which meant, of course, that I had to look, or rather, she sent me the screenshot 2 seconds later. Lydia was back online. She hadn't posted in weeks, not since the asset freeze. Now, she had a new post. It was a photo of her and Graham, taken years ago, back when I was in college. We were all smiling at some family barbecue. It was a photo from a life I now knew was a complete fabrication. The caption, however, was new. "It is with the heaviest heart," she wrote, "that we have to watch our only daughter go through this. She is unwell, deeply confused, and has fallen under the influence of people who do not have her best interests at heart. We are her parents, and we only ever wanted to protect her. Please pray for us, and for her. This has been a devastating humiliation, and we are just trying to pick up the pieces and heal our family." The court of public opinion, while Graham was filing liens, Lydia was painting me as a sick, unstable, manipulated child. The biohazard claim and the "she is unwell" post-it was a coordinated attack. They were creating a narrative where I was the unreliable one, the crazy one, and they were the sane, loving parents just trying to safeguard their assets from their sick daughter. The temptation to clap back was a physical itch, to post the bank stills, the Belize tickets, the forged POA, to unleash the entire 100-page audit binder Priya had given me and burn their public-facing lie to the ground. But I remembered Arthur's chuckle in the courthouse hallway. I remembered my silent, steady walk past the cameras. Spectacle is their weapon. I thought, receipts are mine. I took a screenshot of the post. I forwarded it to Jonah Price. Then I sat at my new, clean desk in my sun-drenched loft, and I marshaled my own receipts. I logged into my old email. I searched Sagebrush Inn, and I found it. The original checkout confirmation, the final, zero-balance invoice from the original owner, Mr. Patel, confirming Arthur Hale's corporate card had paid for my entire stay, plus the final week, in full. I saved it as a PDF. I waited. The call came an hour later. It was Arthur. "Sloan, I have seen the post. I have seen Priya's report on SV Hospitality Partners." His voice wasn't angry. It was energized. There was a low, humming frequency to it I hadn't heard before. "This is an act of desperation," he said. "It's a nuisance suit. They think they can drag you into a messy, public, small claims fight. They want to put your Motel biohazard on the public record to bolster Lydia's unwell daughter narrative. We are not going to let that happen." "What do we do?" I asked. "Jonah can file a motion to dismiss." "No," Arthur cut me off. "No court, no motions. This is not a legal fight anymore. This is pest control." I waited. "They've requested a sit-down," he said. "Through their lawyer. They claim they want to mediate the motel bill." "It's a trap," I said instantly. "Of course it's a trap," Arthur replied, a note of dry amusement in his voice. They are going to offer to drop their $10,000 claim if you drop the multi-million-dollar restitution and the criminal referral. It's the most pathetic bluff in history. And we are going to call it— What do you mean? We. A quiet sit-down. Tonight. At the motel. Room 214. They requested it. They think it's their home turf. Their place of power. A chill went down my spine. Go back there. Arthur, Jonah won't like this. He'll say they'll record me. Jonah is a fine lawyer, Arthur said, his voice hardening. He fights in court, under established rules. But your parents have abandoned those rules. Sometimes. Sloane, you don't fight in the brightly lit courtroom. You fight in the small, dark, dirty room where they are absolutely, 100% sure they are winning. He paused. We are going to their room. No lawyers. Just you, me, and them. Bring your binder of receipts. I'll bring a notary. Night falls fast in the high desert. The neon sign of the Sagebrush Inn hadn't changed. It still cast the same flickering, toxic red light over the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. The same semis were groaning on the interstate. The same smell of sulfur and stale beer hung in the air. I was walking back into my own ghost story. Priya had driven me, her black sedan silent. Arthur is meeting you inside, she said. The notary is waiting in my car. My phone is live. You are not alone. I nodded. I was carrying the heavy, 3-ring binder Priya had given me. The audit trail. My receipts. Room 214. The door was ajar. I pushed it open. They were already there, and they were smug. This was not the beaten, deflated couple in the oversized suit and beige flats from the courthouse. The humiliation was gone. In its place was a renewed, ugly confidence. This was their room. They owned it. Graham stood by the wobbly desk. Lydia was sitting on the edge of the bed, the one I had slept on for weeks. She was wearing bright, glittering nail polish again. She smiled when she saw me, a thin, tight smile of absolute victory. Sloane, Graham said, his voice dripping with that false, paternal warmth that now made my skin crawl. Thank you for coming. We're glad you've decided to be reasonable. Lydia's phone was on the nightstand, screen down, wedged against the lamp. The red light of its audio recorder was faintly visible, blinking in the dim. They were stupid. They were so stupid. We just want to put this all behind us. Graham continued. He had a manila folder, not the thick, leather-bound folder of the Hale Family Trust. A cheap, flimsy manila folder. He pulled out a document. We're prepared to be very generous, Lydia said from the bed. We know you've been confused. Graham slid the paper across the desk. It had one staple in the corner. We're calling this a family accord, he said. I didn't touch it. What is it? It's simple, Lydia said, standing up. It's an agreement. You sign it. It states that this was all a misunderstanding, that you were confused and unduly influenced by Arthur Hale. It immediately halts all civil action. It stops the criminal referral. And in exchange, I asked, my voice flat. In exchange, Graham said, tapping a different paper on the desk, the $10,000 biohazard bill. We drop this. We forgive the damages you caused. We let this go. And, Lydia added, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, we agree to keep things out of jail. We keep this a family matter. No one has to go to prison. The bluff. The pathetic, desperate, final bluff. They were trading a fraudulent $10,000 claim for their freedom. Graham, seeing my silence as hesitation, played his final card. He reached into his manila folder and slid out the glossy photos of the loft, the ones Arthur had shown me. You know, he said, his voice full of mock sympathy, you wouldn't even have that fancy loft if we hadn't taken care of it for you. You probably would have lost it. You should be thanking us. The audacity, the sheer, colossal nerve. I looked at him. I looked at my mother. They were smiling. They were sure they had me. They had me in the room where I was weak, threatening me with the shame they had created. They were sure they were winning. Knock, knock, knock. 3 soft, measured taps on the door. It wasn't the hard, official knock from my first night. It wasn't the frantic knock of a friend. It was the knock of someone who didn't need to ask for permission. The door swung open. Arthur Hale stepped inside. He wasn't wearing his boardroom suit. He was wearing a dark cashmere sweater and trousers. He looked calm, almost relaxed. He was holding a simple, heavy-duty canvas envelope. He nodded to me. Then he looked at Graham. He looked at Lydia, and he smiled. That cold, dry, terrible smile. The sound of a lock clicking shut. He stepped into the room, and the door closed behind him with a soft, final thud, plunging us all into the flickering, neon-red light. The moment Arthur stepped into the room, the smug confidence evaporated from my parents' faces. It was a physical change, like a drop in barometric pressure before a storm. Graham's shoulders, which had been puffed up with a pathetic, borrowed authority, sagged inside his oversized suit. Lydia's victorious smile tightened into a brittle, defensive line. The trap they had so carefully set now had a wolf in it, and the door was closed. Arthur didn't look at them. He walked calmly to the wobbly particle board table, the same table where my life had been dismantled and then reassembled just weeks ago. He placed the heavy canvas envelope down with a soft thump. From inside it, he removed 2 items. First, a glossy, trifold takeout menu for the Golden Dragon Chinese restaurant. Second, a thick stack of notarized deeds, bound with a dark blue ribbon. He placed them side by side on the table, creating 2 distinct piles, a perfect echo of his first visit, the cheap paper and the heavy, official vellum. Then, he turned his pale, piercing eyes not to me, but directly to my father. "Room service," Arthur said, his voice quiet but carrying the weight of a collapsing building. "Or ownership papers." Graham just stared, his mouth slightly agape, the color draining from his face. He didn't understand. Lydia's eyes narrowed, trying to calculate, to find the angle, but for the first time, she couldn't see the board. I don't know what you're talking about," Graham stammered, gesturing wildly at the $10,000 bill on the table. "This is a simple mediation about the damages she caused. We own this claim." "That brings us to our first point," Arthur said, his voice cool and conversational, as if discussing the weather. This was his first reveal. "You don't, in fact, own this claim. SV Hospitality Partners never owned the debt. You were merely the managing entity for the note." He paused, letting the words sink in. "A note which I purchased, at a significant discount from a very motivated Mr. Patel, yesterday afternoon." The air left the room. Graham's entire scheme, the foundation of his smugness, the single piece of leverage he thought he had, was built on a debt he never actually controlled. He was a manager who had just been informed that the company had a new and very hostile owner. You can't do that," Lydia sputtered, her voice rising, shrill and panicked. "This is our business." "It was," Arthur corrected gently. This was the second reveal. He tapped the thick stack of notarized deeds. "And that brings us to the ownership papers." He slid the top document across the table. "Priya, my chief of staff, was very busy this afternoon. She formed a new entity, Sloan Mercer Hospitality, LLC. He looked at me, a flicker of something almost like pride in his eyes. "And these documents, with a single counter-signature from you, Sloan, will transfer the full ownership and title of the Sagebrush Inn, free and clear, to that entity, to you." It was a checkmate so profound, so complete, that my parents were rendered completely speechless. They had tried to trap me with a fraudulent $10,000 lien on a single room. My grandfather had responded by buying the entire motel and giving it to me, as if on cue. There was a polite knock on the door. It opened, and the night manager, the same one who had called me weeks ago about the gentleman in a suit, stepped inside. He was holding a large, jangling keyring and a thick, cloth-bound ledger. He wasn't looking at my parents. He was looking at me, and he was smiling. "Ms. Mercer," he said, his voice full of a relief that was almost comical. "The new owner, welcome." He placed the keyring and the ledger on the table with a heavy thud. "Per Mr. Hale's instructions, the fraudulent damages claim from SV Hospitality has been voided in our system. The account for room 214 is, and has always been, paid in full." He nodded respectfully to me and Arthur, and then backed out of the room. Closing the door behind him, the click of the latch was deafening. My parents were cornered. They were rats in a cage of their own design. "This is insane," Lydia whispered, her glittering nails digging into the polyester comforter of the bed. "This is illegal. You can't just—" "Oh, but I can," Arthur said. And then came the third and final reveal. From the canvas envelope, he produced one last item, a thick 9x12 manila envelope, sealed with red wax bearing the Hale family crest. It was addressed to Graham and Lydia Mercer. "And this," he said, placing it on the table between them, "is why you will not fight it," he explained, his voice devoid of any emotion. A surgeon describing a procedure. "That envelope contains a formal criminal referral. It has already been filed with the district attorney's office. It details the wire fraud, the forgery, the conspiracy, the perjury, everything. It is, however, currently suspended." He let that word hang in the air. Suspended. "It will remain suspended on one, and only one, condition." He slid another document from his envelope. It was not a family accord. It was a confession. "You will sign this. It is a full confession of judgment for the civil case. It is a permanent, irrevocable relinquishment of any and all claims, now and forever, to any of Sloane's assets, income, or inheritance. And it includes a clause stipulating your full and complete cooperation in the state's case against Reese Vallon." He pushed it toward them. "You sign that document," he said, his voice dropping to a low, final whisper. "And you walk out of here tonight with nothing but the clothes on your back. You will be broke. You will be socially ruined, but you will be free. You refuse to sign, and I lift the suspension, and the alternative is handcuffs. By morning." Lydia sputtered. A string of incoherent, furious noises. Graham reached deep for one last bit of bluster, his face turning a blotchy red. "How dare you? We are her parents. We did what we thought was best." I had been silent through all of it, watching, listening, but now it was my turn. I reached into my own binder. I took out 2 pages. The first was the expert's overlay report of the forged power of attorney. My real signature and the fake one mismatched in a stark, undeniable diagram of their crime. The second was the screenshot of my mother's spa selfie, the one she posted while clinking champagne glasses. I slid them across the table, side by side, right in front of my father's face. I leaned forward. My voice was calm. It was quiet, and it was the most powerful sound in the room. "I don't negotiate," I said, looking them both in the eye. "With thieves who call theft parenting." Then, I turned to the ownership papers, the ones that would make this shabby, broken motel mine. I picked up the heavy black ink pen Arthur had set out. My hand was as steady as the stone foundation of a mountain. I signed my name, Sloane Mercer, the notary, who had been waiting just outside the door. Stepped in silently, a ghost of legal finality. She took the document, examined my signature, and then brought down her official stamp. Thunk! The sound was an earthquake. It was a gavel. It was the sound of a world ending, and a new one beginning. It broke them. Graham's shoulders caved completely. A puppet with its strings cut. He looked old, and small, and utterly defeated. Lydia's glittering nails went still. The fight was gone. All that was left was the cold, hard reality of prison bars, shaking, their hands trembling so badly they could barely hold the pen. They signed the confession. They signed away their stolen life, their lies, their final, pathetic claim on me. They signed because the only alternative was a cage. The notary took their signed confession, witnessed it, and left as silently as she had arrived. The room was quiet. I stood up. I pocketed the heavy keyring from the table, the keys to my first property. I turned to Arthur. I didn't look back at the two broken people sitting in the ruins of their own greed. They were no longer my problem. They were just ghosts in a room I now owned. I walked to the door and opened it. I turned to the manager, who was waiting patiently in the hallway. "First order of business," I said, my voice clear and strong. "Change the lock on room 214. The neon sign outside buzzed. A relentless electric hum. My name on the deed in my grandfather's envelope was still wet with ink, and the door to my old life closed on their faces. The sound of the brass security chain sliding home, once and for all. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're tuning in from. So please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like. And to help this story reach more listeners, please support it by hitting that hype button. Your support means the world.